For a deeper look, we're joined now by Joe Moreno. He is a former U.S. federal prosecutor joining us tonight from Philadelphia. Joe, good to see you as always. Trump called this pardon an abuse of power, a miscarriage of justice. What do you think?
Hey, Travis, good to be with you. Hey, look, as an American, as a lawyer, as a father of three sons of my own, I think this is disgraceful, frankly. I think that it's bad enough that the pardon was made by President Biden, but the fact that he wasted so much time and so many resources, and these federal prosecutors, investigators were spinning their wheels for 2 years now, when all the while, I'm sure he knew he was going to do this. So he could have saved us a lot of time and a lot of heartache by simply vetoing the investigations from the get-go, or fulfilling his promise that he made dozens of times, both before and after the election, that he would not do exactly what he's done.
So is your take, as I said in the intro, that, a lot of folks on both sides of the aisle are pretty upset by this, including Democrats?
Yeah, I mean, they should be. I think they look like fools, frankly. I mean, they've been running around for a year saying how noble President Biden is, that he respects the rule of law, that he's a great guy like George Washington because he puts the country in front of himself. What lesson are we teaching folks now? I mean, it's basically, don't try this at home. Don't illegally acquire firearms and fail to pay millions of dollars in taxes unless your dad's the president, because all the rest of us are not going to get a pardon. We go to jail for that sort of thing. And his reference to the fact, his argument that only his son would get targeted, it was a vindictive prosecution, that's absolute nonsense. These cases are prosecuted all the time, and rightfully so.
Well, so in the statement, he also says this is the statement from last night, that he believes that raw politics has infected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. How would you describe Hunter Biden's legal saga?
Remember, this is Joe Biden's own Justice Department, his own Attorney General, his own appointed special counsel, David Weiss, that ran this process. And I'm sure they're not that happy this night being called vindictive prosecutors or selective prosecutors. I mean, look, it was aggressive, but President Biden can't blame Donald Trump for this, or congressional Republicans, or lawfare. This was his process to control from the beginning. He could have stopped it. He could have been honest a long time ago. And clearly he dragged his feet until after the election because he didn't want to infect his political future. Right. And now it's done. He can basically do what he wants. There's nothing that anyone can do about this.
Do you think if Kamala Harris was the president-elect that this pardon would happen?
Probably. I mean, probably Biden would have done it on the way out, just like he's doing now. And I think it would have been a little embarrassing for her. But again, there's not much that can be done about it. I mean, there's no challenging it. There's no, other than a political uproar. I think they're going to hope that people sort of respect his, his status as the father and being merciful to his son. Keep in mind, though, this could have been a lot narrower. He could have commuted any prison time, so allow the conviction to stand, but then just prevent him from going to jail. That he could have done that, or he could have issued a pardon just for these two sets of crimes. And instead, he issues this 11-year retroactive pardon. I mean, that's really suspicious. And as you mentioned in your intro, probably the broadest pardon since President Ford of President Nixon back in 1974. So it raises all kinds of questions about what exactly was done over the last 11 years, and what did President Biden know about it, that it required such an extensive retroactive pardon.
So do you think that this will hang over his legacy? It's going to really impact Joe Biden's legacy and what that will be in the years to come?
Absolutely. I mean, he'll be seen as one of the worst failed presidents in recent history. I mean, the Afghanistan debacle, the immigration crisis, and now this. I mean, I don't think there's anything going to be well said about him. And of course, he lost to Donald Trump. So I think that people will look back at this and say this was really a failed presidency, and it just opened the door for Donald Trump to return.
Hunter Biden faced a sentencing this month for federal tax and gun convictions. What does this pardon essentially mean? Like, all of that is gone.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's basically extinguished. The only thing that prosecutors are actually pushing back on today is they're trying to keep at least the indictment or the charges on the record to not be scrubbed off, because at least those have been concluded. But it's really a technicality. I mean, the fact is, he can say he's never been convicted, he's not a felon, and it's eventually scrubbed, and it cannot be returned to either. No future prosecutors can go after these crimes.
I got to run here, but let me ask you this before I let you go. How much ammunition do you think this pardon gives Trump and his allies?
It's sort of a race to the bottom, which is also unfortunate, because it kind of opens the door to say, all right, well, now Joe Biden did it, so now we're going to use the pardon system to help our friends and protect our friends. So look, I think it's bad all around, and it opens some really nasty doors, and hopefully we don't go down them.
Okay, Joe, good to see you as always. That is Joe Moreno, a former U.S. federal prosecutor joining us from Philadelphia. The Ontario City